Okay. Hello. Um, Pardon my messing around with the interface here. A little bit of last minute technical uh, changes. So if you need something to do for the next 30 seconds, you can scan my free Bitcoin QR code. I promise you won't regret it? Question mark? I'm not sure. I make no promises. Okay, we are going to dive in pretty quick here. I'll give everybody a second to get in and get settled, but we are going to dive in pretty quick because I had this uh we're going to do an experience builder widget and it's going to take a few minutes to get it done. So a little, I guess a little bit of background. Uh Jeff, who I think is in the webinar, I'm not looking at the list because I don't like looking at who's here. But or how many people are here. But Jeff emailed me uh, referencing some of his posts that he had done where he tried to get Claude to do various things for Experience Builder and stuff. And we kind of went back and forth about this, um, and we yeah, we went back and forth about it, and kind of at the last minute I decided, yeah, why not? Let's just that's what this is about. This is about things going right and things going wrong. So we're just going to try building an experience builder widget. So I'm going to basically walk through my process of how I use Claude Code to do Experience Builder, and we're going to go from zero to hopefully working Experience Builder widget in the next 59 minutes. I do have a few questions that I'll try to get to. One of them was about Experience Builder. So we're going to start with that. Okay. Get the screen share going here. Oh, I totally just shared Zoom, shared the Zoom app with you. Okay, try that again. Desktop 2. There we go. There we go. Okay. So what we're looking at here is a step-by-step guide that I built to configure and set up Experience Builder on my machine because I don't actually use Experience Builder that often, so I wanted a little bit of help. I didn't let Claude try to set it up on its own. I just had it kind of walk me through it. But basically, what that gets me to is I have this folder here. I guess you can see it in VS Code. I have this folder here where I've got the client folder from Experience Builder. I have the server folder from Experience Builder, and then I have a few extra odds and ends, which I'm gonna walk through here. I've already done the setup part. So I have Experience Builder running. You can see the client is running npm start here, and I have the server running npm start here. So I have those two bits running. And if we go look in Chrome, you can see here's my Experience Builder. So I have it hooked up, but there's nothing in it. It's a brand new, fresh install of Experience Builder. Nothing crazy here. So the goal before I'll just finish diving in. I'll just finish explaining the setup because this is all generic. So I have this guide. The other piece, there are three other pieces of information that are really important to get Experience Builder, to get Claude Code to work with Experience Builder. The first is CLAUDE.md. So CLAUDE.md is a set of kind of like a system prompt. It's a set of instructions that Claude Code reads when it starts up and will reference. So what I did is I had Claude, the desktop app or the web app, dig through the Experience Builder documentation and posts on the internet about Experience Builder and build a guide that is like, that kind of explains like, this is the structure for the widget. And this is how you do, this is the module declaration for this. So it basically walks it through a bunch of reference information. And that's actually a really important thing because Claude is really good at reading code. Experience Builder has some documentation, but it doesn't document every component. So the default would be Claude can read all of the source code, but that's a lot of source code. And when it has that much source code to read, it'll fill up the context, it'll miss things. So it needs kind of pre-generated summaries. So there are two things that I did here for that. The first is the CLAUDE.md, which has a bunch of core rules and ends with, how do I want you to do this? Well, we're going to plan, we're going to build progressively, watch deprecations, et cetera. So it has that CLAUDE, which is kind of that core system prompt. And then it has a reference document here called Custom Widget Developer Guide. And some of the information in this is similar or the same as Claude Code, or as the CLAUDE.md, excuse me. But this is a little bit more in depth and tries to explain more about the way you manipulate Experience Builder from a source code point of view when you're building a widget. And this came from a couple of things. One, it came from me asking Claude to go and generate this document. And two, it came from a coworker, Kevin, who was building a widget in Experience Builder using Claude. And what he had done is he placed in this docs folder, he downloaded the Experience Builder docs and dropped the whole thing in there. And then he had Claude kind of sift through it and pick out pieces that were important. So I took his results of that, dumped it into Claude and said, combine that in to get this widget development guide. The downside of the docs that are downloaded from Experience Builder from ArcGIS, the same thing for the JavaScript SDK. When you download those, you get a bunch of JavaScript files, right? It's like a compiled JS doc format or something. And that's a little bit hard as a human to read without running it as a server. It's actually pretty challenging for Claude to read too without running it as a server. But anyway, we condensed that into these two documents. And these are the key to getting this to work, is this kind of reference material. You're trying to fill in the gaps here. So we have those. And then the last thing that is important is I downloaded the samples directory, or the samples GitHub repo from Esri. All I did was git clone it. Didn't do anything special. I just git cloned it. And inside the CLAUDE.md file, I referenced that this exists. So I'm saying that, oh, there are, in the widgets directory, there are examples. And I'm not doing anything to explain what these examples are or anything like that. It's possible that that would actually help, like, generate kind of a README that would walk through each one. If this README doesn't walk through each one, kind of does, kind of doesn't. So generating a more in-depth README for this might actually be pretty useful to Claude. And then stuffing that inside like the docs folder. Okay, so that's our setup. We have a straight up out of the box Experience Builder. I've added CLAUDE.md. I've added our custom widget developer guide MD, and I've added samples. That's where we are. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to design our widget. So the question is, what are we going to build? Okay. There are a lot of things you could build, but it seems like the most self-referential thing would be to build a widget where I can type a request in plain text and it will generate where clauses for all of the layers in my map. So that's basically like a natural language processing thing where we want to be able to say something like, only show schools in Texas, and it's going to generate a where clause that's something like state equals quote TX quote, and it's going to apply that to the layer for us. Okay, so that does complicate our process a little bit because it does mean that we need a server component, right? Because we're going to talk to an AI, we're going to talk to a large language model, and we're going to go through this in detail here because this is part of my process. But we do need that. We do need that detail. And we do need that server. So for that, I'm not gonna try to build a server as part of this for right now. Instead, I'm gonna use N8N. And I actually did prototype this a little bit over here. So I actually have a version of this that's kind of doing this part of it. But we are gonna try to do it all from scratch. So we're gonna try not to use this. We're gonna have Claude do all the work for us in this 1 hour. So we're not necessarily going to use this. I just kind of wanted to know, like, I wanted a feel for what this would look like. N8N, for those that don't know, is kind of like a workflow process. So it's like a Zapier or a make.com, Integromat, those kinds of things, but it's AI first. So it has these AI agent blocks that you can put right in it, and you can give them memory and tools and parsers, and you can pick different models, and you can just do all of that in here and then expose it as a webhook. So it's super useful for doing kind of one-off things. One topic I am not going to cover in this is security. Right now, this is just available on the public internet, so I'm not dealing with protecting that so that other people can't use it and use up all of my tokens and credits and stuff. I'm not going to deal with that right now. Maybe if we have a minute at the end, we'll talk about it. We're already 10 minutes in and I'm getting nervous. So we're going to dive in. The last part that I did to prep for this is I used Claude to look at my starter guide and my CLAUDE.md and my docs file, and I had it generate this, which is a guide for Claude to help me do a design. So I am a big proponent of when you're doing agentic coding. I'm not going to say vibe coding. We're doing a little bit more than vibe coding here. When you're doing agentic coding, you need to plan. So in my newsletter a couple of weeks ago, I did a thing where I talked about think, engage, and test. So this is the think step. This is when we're using our brains, our experience to figure out what it is we want to build, and we're going to describe it. So I'm going to drop that prompt, this like kind of core prompt in here. This is basically just giving Claude a bunch of background and reference information about Experience Builder to build on what it already has, right? So you notice we're continuously giving Claude context in every step here. And that's important when you have a big complex system like Experience Builder. You have to keep giving Claude the most current best context. Also note, I am using Opus 4.6, the biggest, hardest thinking model. I'm doing the same thing in Claude Code. You can do it with Sonnet, but the results aren't as good. You'll spend more time messing with it. The cost probably ends up the same. So here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to describe our widget here. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use my voice to text app, which you won't be able to see because it's going to pop up on the other screen. But basically, I'm going to talk out loud, convert it to text, and that's going to be our design. Okay, so here we go. I want to build an Experience Builder widget that takes in an input from a user, like a plain text description of what they want to do, and generates a where clause. So they might say something like, I want only show me schools in Texas. And the backend process will use that input plus metadata about layers to generate a where clause and apply it to the layer. Okay, so that's my first kind of high level overview, but we're going to keep designing. We're not done designing yet. The workflow is something like this. There'll be a UI in Experience Builder that has a text input. And that text input, I'm going to type in my information, and then there'll be a button. And when I push that button, it's going to send off to an N8N workflow the user input text plus a list of all of the layers in the map. So what we want to do is we want to send the ID of the layer so we know which one we have. And then we want to send whatever metadata we have about that layer. If we have a description, that would be nice, but we definitely want to send the list of fields. We want to send the field name, the field alias, and the data type, all to that N8N workflow. The N8N workflow will then process that using an AI node. It'll process that user request and all of the field metadata, and it will generate a resulting JSON that will pass back to the client application. And that resulting JSON will be like a list of each layer that needs a where clause applied to it. And if a where clause should be removed, then it should return null. And the widget should set it to like, 1 equals 1 so that all data is set, something like that. Basically clearing the thing. Okay, so it's translating that here and putting that down. So I just want to point out that I'm being fairly loose here. But this is how I always do it. I'm not trying to build a super specific or a super detailed like design document. I don't need that. That's actually what Claude is going to do here. Okay, so what else do we need this to do? Oh, yeah, settings. So we're going to have a settings page also. We want it to integrate with Experience Builder in a native way. So like I need to be able to select the map and then the layers that can be filtered. And then I need to be able to set the URL for the N8N workflow. For now, we're not going to worry about security. We're just going to call that N8N workflow directly through a webhook, and then it should return the result, just a post request. Okay, that I think is going to be sufficient. So what we're going to end with here is think hard about this design and ask clarifying questions. That's important because I might have forgotten something and I don't want Claude to make assumptions. I would rather it ask me about that. So we're going to let it spit out its result here, which will take a second. But we're probably it's going to be pretty good, I think. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're basically going to step through answering each of its questions here. It looks like it has 6 questions, and then we'll look at what's below. So we're just going to start typing here. So multiple layers in one query. If the user says, show me schools in Texas and hospitals in California, should the N8N workflow be able to query where clause for multiple? Yes, it should. The AI and the N8N is smart enough to figure out which layers the query applies to. That is correct. We want it to be able to do that. 2, conversation history refinement. Should the widget support follow-up queries like now also filter schools? That's an interesting question. Let's keep it simple. We're just going to do standalone. So reset on each new update. Active filter display. When filters are applied, should the widget show the users what's currently active? Something like chips tags per layer showing the current where clause or human readable summary. Should be able to clear individual layers. Let's just say a global clear button. Whoops. This is why I should have done the audio. Global clear button. And let's say, yes, show the where clause for each layer. Okay. Number 4. Layer selection at runtime. In the settings panel, you configure which layers are available for filtering at runtime. Does the user also pick which layers to consider? Does it send it all configured layers? All configured layers, and the AI decides how to apply where clauses. If it doesn't know, it should just return null for each layer. I don't know, something like that. We could set better defaults, but for now, that's fine. Loading error UX, N8N round trip could take a few seconds. Yep. With AI processing, are you thinking a simple spinner? Do you want a spinner typing indicator for errors? Let's just do a simple spinner. Let's just keep it simple for now. We can always come back and change UI pieces. So let's just keep it simple because I want to get to hoping we can get this done. Field metadata depth. On field name, alias type, you also want to send coded value domains and subtypes if they exist. That is a really good point. Coded value domains would, yes, also send domains. Because actually, even sending a sample of data would be useful, but now we're sending data to the AI and maybe we don't want to do that. So we'll just stick with schema. Okay, let's see if there's anything else that we want to correct here. So we're just going to quickly look through this. I would normally spend a lot more time. I'm just gonna trust in Claude here. Proposed architecture, proceeding with assumptions. I'll assume multi-layer response is intended. Yes, data flow. Okay, so user types natural language query, widget gathers layer metadata from the map view, post to workflow, receives response. So we're going to send the query. We're going to send layers. Yeah. Let's not send the URL. Let's not send the layer URL. The AI won't have tools to query the layer, so we don't need that. We could do that. We could actually give the AI a tool to be able to query a layer and fully understand it before doing that. But that now we're in complication. That's complicated because that requires a lot more configuration, setup, and knowledge on the AI side to do correctly. Querying spatial data is tough. Okay. receive response, filters, layer ID, where clause. No, that looks great. Okay. And yeah, great. Active, this is looking great. Filterable layers, great. Generally speaking, this is looking pretty cool. Sure, you did, I don't know, you built a bunch of stuff. That seems fine. File descriptions, I'm going to assume it did all that okay. Technical direct path seems fine. Implementation plan seems okay. Yeah, we're going to have to deal with access control, allow origin, sure. Field lists, yeah, big field lists could cause a large request. In response contract, yeah, we kind of looked at that above. That looks okay. Optional message to display, sure, okay. So is there anything else that we want to do here? We want to make sure we use the native Experience Builder processes. Write this up as an MD file I can give to Claude Code. Okay, so we're gonna let Claude generate that, and then we're going to stick this in our Visual Studio Code over here. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to make a new file. We'll call this plan.md, and we're going to paste all that in here when it's done generating. In the meantime, we're going to come down here to here. This is what we want. So this is what we're going to pass to Claude Code. So basically, we're booting up Claude Code, and we're saying we're going to read this file, read the docs file, check compatibility matrices, blah, 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 watch for deprecations. That's funny. Okay. Build progressively, blah, blah, blah. The plan is in plan.md, which we're going to populate in a second. And then this last line is important. Review the plan, ask questions, and then build your plan. So we're asking, basically, we're asking for a second round of planning. We're doing a lot of planning because at the end of the day, this is only going to take a few minutes to generate all of this code. So we want to make sure that we're building this context up correctly. So while that's running over here, oh no, we're going to wait and make sure that this is all stable before we start up Claude. Because I have another terminal window over here ready to go in my same directory. But I want to put Claude. I'm going to wait till we have our document set up and everything so that when it starts up, it has, it knows all of the, yeah, I just don't want to change anything mid-flight because that, I mean, obviously that works just fine, but I'm trying to get one shot. I'm trying to get this widget. I want this widget to build correctly the first time in one shot. That's my goal. And while it's working on that, we'll come back and we'll build the N8N engine. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. One thing to verify first, React hooks, import pattern. Claude Code will figure that out. I have faith. Yeah, I'm not, okay. We're going to copy it. We're going to paste it. We're going to save it. We're going to come over here. We're going to start up Claude. I didn't know this was going to be the thing that took the longest. What is happening right now? Whew, okay. Oh. Okay. Claude 4.6, that's the important part. We're in our right directory. So we're going to come back over to this. I'm going to copy that. We're going to paste that in here. It has our 16 lines of text, and we press enter. So there's our thing. We're going to let that cook for a minute. So you notice it immediately says, let me start by reading the plan and developer guide. So we're already off to a good start if it's reading our reference docs. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm nervous, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. I wonder if, let's see here. Okay. There we go. Questions for me. Okay. The plan specifies separate subcomponent files plus separate lib files. This is 7 extra files for what's roughly 300 lines of logic. Should I keep that structure or consolidate it into fewer lines? Oh man. I guess simpler is better. If I was going to write this myself, I wouldn't worry about trying to organize this. So let's go simple. I'm surprised it only asked me the one question. It usually asks 3 or 4. Got it. Consolidated structure, set up tasks, and start building. Okay, so you see what it's doing right now is it's planning. So it's building out its to-do list right here. So phase 1, scaffolding, phase 2, build settings, phase 3, runtime, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so yes, just allow access, do your thing. That one I always say yes to. I do not dangerously run with no permissions. Like if it needs to execute a command or something like that, it's going to come back and ask me. But that part I always say yes to. So I want to make sure, because I want to make sure that it can just generate these files constantly, right? If I was doing this in a real app, I would do it in a GitHub repo where I could look at all of the deltas. So I can review it in as much detail as I want to. But for this purpose, like I don't want to review every single one of these changes it's going to do because it's going to do a lot of them very quickly, and I want it to just do its thing. Okay, while that's happening, we're going to build the N8N workflow. So I'm going to come back to my Claude window where I had it do this design, and I'm going to say generate the JSON for the N8N workflow. So N8N has a JSON format where you can import it. Make sure you keep it simple and use an AI node for the AI step, not a REST call. Sometimes it gets confused. So we're going to have it generate that. While that's happening, I'm going to switch to N8N. And is this the new workflow? Great. Okay, so here's our new workflow. So in a second, this is going to finish and we're just going to import it. So this is why, so when I have 2 different Claudes running off working on things, this is when I check my email. or I start up another Claude. I usually run, if I'm in software dev mode, I'm usually working on like 2 things at the same time. So I tend to push Claude off to go work on something for several minutes and then move on to the next thing. So I end up doing more context switching, but I just go at my speed. Like if I'm not ready to switch back, even if Claude's done, I just don't worry about it. Because yeah. And I also will sometimes, if I'm working on a bigger project, will check out the same source code in 2 different locations and have Claude A working on this feature and Claude B working on a different feature. So you can kind of do them in parallel, which is fun and weird, but then you got to deal with merging and all that stuff. So, okay. So our N8N workflow is, oh, there it is. Okay, so let's just stay on task. We'll do this and we'll come back. Claude Code is now done, but we'll come back to that. So I am going to download this. And I'm going to come over to this. And I'm going to say import from file. We're going to import this. And okay, so we got some stuff. It's kind of, see here. There we go. Okay, needs a little work. So we're just going to look at each one of these quickly and see how we're doing. So we've got our post as a path, no authentication, respond with webhook. That looks correct. Build prompt. I don't have a problem with that. We'll have to see what the structure actually looks like. AI agent, this is going to be a mess. Okay, so define below JSON prompt. That's coming from our previous node, which we can't run yet. We'll come back to that. It's not using specified output format, which is kind of bothersome. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to add an Anthropic model because I like them better. And I'm going to use my key, not Mara's key. And I will use, I'm going to, most current model, Sonnet 4.6. For this kind of work, Sonnet should be sufficient. So we'll set that up. And we have a parse response. I don't love this. What I'd rather do is configure this to create the correct output format. But this will be easier once we can run it. So let's go. So we're going to switch gears. Sorry for this constant gear switching here, but we're going to switch back to Claude Code for a minute. And we're going to see if this widget got built. So it thinks it built the widget. It wants me to restart the client. Probably don't have to do that, but I'm going to go ahead and do what it says. Oh yeah, okay, so it found it. Natural language filter, it found our widget. Create new. I'm just going to do whatever. I just want a map for right now. Okay, so I'm going to click on my map. I'm going to do select map. All right, add data source, demo map. Okay, map. All right, so there's my map. Good enough. So the purpose of this map is I've got schools, universities, and active wildfire. So two different layers that are unrelated and have different fields so that we can see if it works, basically. Okay, so we're going to do that. Oh yeah, we want to go, oh, right, unlock, whatever. In arrow. I don't know. Here we go. I'm not, oh man. Okay. I don't love that it did this. That makes me nervous. Let's give this a background. So we can kind of see it. Makes me nervous because this makes me think that because it's not using the kind of the settings UI that I would expect in Experience Builder where I'm selecting the layer and stuff, selecting the data source. So it makes me nervous that this is not, makes me nervous. But let's see. Let's benefit of the doubt. Let's see what happens. Because if this works, we can always go back and fix that. So I'm going to go to N8N and I'm going to get my test URL. So I just click on it to copy it, come back over here, paste that in. Okay, so the UI is looking okay. I'm just going to do this like this. And we're going to, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to say listen for test event. So this is how we capture a request. I say schools in Texas. And this is going to fail. That's expected. But over here, we've captured our request. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called pinning in N8N so that we can just reuse this data. We don't have to redo that test over and over. And then we're just going to look at what it gave us. So it gave us a user query. It gave us a layer ID with a title. It gave us a giant list of fields that's looking pretty good. Huge list. Here's another one, current perimeters. So that's one of my fire layers. Another list of attributes, and then current incidents, the other fire layer, a whole bunch of other attributes. Okay, so this looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to test our server component here. So we got that. We're going to open this up and we're going to say execute. And it didn't work. Layers is not iterable. That's this input.layers. Yeah, input. I think let's just drag this to right here and see what it says. Yeah, so we're just missing dot body here. And that should make that work. There we go. Okay, so this is what we expected, a giant string, because that's what we're passing into the AI, which describes all of our fields and everything, and probably at the very top has our schools thing here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Um, so now this, I'm realizing that this has a problem because this doesn't have a system prompt, which we're going to need. Um, generate a system prompt for the AI that defines the expected output structure and task. So I actually don't know what the exact JSON structure is here. We have to go look in our plan document. So here we go. So this is the expected output. Um, Yeah, so this is the expected output that we want to get from the n8n workflow. So I'm just gonna copy that because we're gonna need it, I think, in a second. Okay, good. So that's generating that. So we're gonna come back and add a system prompt here in a second. But what I want to do is I want to do this require specific output format. And the reason I want to do that is most of these AI models now have a output this in a JSON format, and it takes care of making sure it is real JSON for you. Um, so we're going to do this structured output thing. We're going to use an example. We're just going to paste that in here. So that was our thing before. And we're going to turn on autofix. And what autofix does is if everything goes terribly wrong and this can't be parsed, it passes it back to the AI to try to fix it. So we're just going to hook that up there. So this is powering both of those. And hopefully that will all work. So we're going to come back into our agent and we're going to work on our system prompt here. Expect this is going to be, okay, so system prompt. System, oh, you're just big. Oh, it's huge. Yikes. Okay. This is really big. I actually don't think it needs to be this big. I'm just going to paste it in there. We're going to try it. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That actually worked really well. So you can see for this layer, we got our state and it gave it a description, blah, blah, blah. And then it also gave us an overall message. So that, I'm actually pretty happy with that. That worked pretty good. Okay. Now, though, we did change the way this worked. So this output is now structured already. So we're just going to copy this. We're going to go back over here and we're going to say our output is now correctly formatted by the AI. So we need to change the code in the last step to just return it. This is what the output looks like from the AI node. Just paste that in there. Should give us like 2 lines of JavaScript. Sometimes it's a little stressful waiting for Claude to do things. Maybe it's particularly stressful when you're live streaming waiting for Claude to do things. Okay. Oh man, it gave me the work. No, just give me the code. Just give me the code so I can copy paste it. You also notice that Claude doesn't really care about your typing errors. Like when you're typing to Claude, you can just Nope, we don't need that. We don't actually need to do that. Okay. I'm over here. We're just going to say return this. I think that's all we need to do. Just going to save that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our webhook here. We're going to grab our production URL and copy that. I'm going to hit publish so that it's publicly available. We're going to come back to our, not that, close that. Back to this. Fix our webhook. Schools in Texas. This will take a few seconds. It does take 5 to 10. Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know why I'm surprised every time this stuff works, but that totally worked. It totally, okay, so let's see. Oh man, and it's actually correctly setting the filter on the data source, even though the settings UI is acting kind of weird and doesn't look the way I wanted. That is correct. Okay, so let's clear it. And let's do something like wolf. I don't know what that is. Let's just say in it's the wolf incident. I can't believe that worked. Oh, totally. Oh man. Okay, this is pretty cool. Okay, check that out. So it actually wrote a really good where clause, like upper incident name, like upper like that actually that's actually a good where clause. Okay, let's do something weird. The wolf incident and schools in California. I think that's going to work. Ha, totally worked. Totally worked. Okay, this UI needs a little bit of work. I'm not gonna lie. I don't love the UI. It's not terrible though. Like, I think I would want to make these like little like chips instead of cards so that it was a little more like the UI would just a little bit nicer. And I would also go back and have Claude refactor this to use the same I don't know what it's called. Um, would be this kind of interface where I'm selecting the data. I want it to use that, which I think is just built into Experience Builder. So I would go back and I would have Claude refactor that. But this is pretty good. Let's see. I saw some chat. Oh yeah, can it do something like schools within 100 miles of the wolf incident? Yeah, okay. That is a really good question. The answer is no. Let's do it, but then let's talk about why. Schools within 100 miles of the wolf incident. So the reason it can't do that is because that can't be done in a where clause in ArcGIS. Right? All we did here is we gave it the ability to filter data with a where clause. And so let's see what it does. Is it said the request requires a spatial proximity filter, which cannot be expressed in a SQL WHERE clause alone. I filtered the current incidents and current perimeter layers to show records matching wolf in the incident name in the application to find colleges within 100 miles. a spatial buffer analysis or distance-based spatial query must be performed. That's right. So that's actually a much more complex operation that would have to be done here. So that would be because like to do that, we would have to do something like we'd have to do a buffer and then we'd have to do a spatial filter. So we'd have to buffer it, take the geometry and send it. So we would have to do some of those steps locally in the browser. So now in order to do that, we're actually doing a multi-turn AI process, which is not great for N8N. We'd have to build a custom server. But the way it would look is it would look something like I would send that request to the AI. The AI would respond with execute this tool, which would be buffer or filter or whatever, and it would basically command the UI to do operations. And that, yeah, so that is just a much more complex process. It should still be doable in Experience Builder. I'm now like trying to think through how that would work, but I think it should still be doable, but it's like a multi-turn process where the AI has to go back and forth with your user interface instead of this kind of one-shot deal, right? This is a nice, clean one shot. Another cool thing about N8N is I can come here to executions and I can look at why is that on? That's weird. I don't know what was happening there. I can come back and I can look at this run. So I can actually look and see like what happened. And I can even come and look at like what was the agent output. So I can use this to kind of fine tune my system prompt also, because one thing about this is this system prompt is really big. Like we made this prompt that Claude wrote was really large, and that's going to burn a lot of tokens. So each request will cost a lot. My gut tells me you could tighten that system prompt up a lot and save a lot on tokens, so that this request would be much cheaper. So, but in a nutshell, that is how you build widgets in Experience Builder with Claude. Like I said, there's a lot I would do to change this. And basically the way I would do that now is I would go back to Claude and I would just ask it to make changes. So we got a few minutes. Let's see if we can break it. So I kind of feel like, let's see, what's the best thing to do here? Let's have it see if it'll fix this settings. I'm going to use the voice thing here. I want to fix the settings panel so that it uses the select data source more like a native Experience Builder experience would. So I have to I select the map and then I select the layers from the map, like the whole data source data selection workflow thing. I don't know what to call that. Ask me questions if you don't know. Okay, so let's just let that cook on that for a minute. Okay, a couple of questions. The results of your widget could be passed to near me widget and Experience Builder to grab the nearby schools. Oh yeah, totally. That's a really good point. So you could totally, that's a really cool idea. So what you could do is you could give the AI an extra set of output commands that it could provide. So you could totally do something like execute near me using these parameters or something. Like, so you could totally like command this widget from the AI to execute another widget, or at least pop open another widget, or doing something like that. That's a really cool idea. That would be kind of fun, because you could make a one-shot version of this that could do that. That would be really interesting. If you perform the process multiple times, will return different code each time. Can you improve on the code it returns the first time with multiple corrections? So you mean in Claude Code? Yes, 100%. Every time you do this, it's very different. So I'll have a minor confession. I got scared yesterday. I didn't think this was going to work, and I wanted to know how bad it was not going to work. So I did it yesterday. The widget was actually much better yesterday. Yesterday's version was much closer to what I would actually want than this one is. So yeah, it does very highly. But yes, you can continue to talk to Claude, and that's really the workflow. Like I'm kind of showing this like one-shot example here, but totally the workflow is you continue to talk to Claude, just like we're doing here with I'm asking it to fix the settings panel. And so like that, the process is very iterative. And yeah, the process can be and often is very iterative when working with the AI to do that. So like dymaptic's accessible map agent, like it's like 99% AI generated code, and it definitely is like a back and forth thing that we do all the time. Could probably do something like schools in the same county as the wolf incident, if that's in the database. If you did schools near the wolf incident, should be smart enough to look at things like that in a database, or would say it needs more information. Good question. The problem I think is that if the wolf incident, let's see here. Well, there's a couple of things. We didn't give the AI the ability to look at any data, right? We did that kind of hard line. If we gave the AI an ArcGIS token and the URL, we could actually give it some tools to be able to go off and query data and try to actually have deeper understanding of that. But without that, I don't think that like our current incidents, I don't think that there's anything in here that indicates where this is. For example, I think if I say incidents in California, I don't think that there's a field that could do that. Oh, see, there's point of origin and it's US-CA. Oh, well, there I go being wrong. Yeah. Yes, if something like county was a field in the layers, then yeah, you could I think it would successfully filter both. So if I had like county, if my schools had a county field and if my fires had a county field, you could totally filter by pick these five counties and ask it to do it. Because I did, I bet we can do something like colleges that would compete in March Madness. I bet this works. But yeah, you're totally right. If the more fields like that are in the database, the more likely it is that it would be able to filter it. So what did it do? Oh, who knows? Okay. I don't actually know what those fields are, so it's probably yeah, I wouldn't be able to do colleges in the same state as Wolf because the AI doesn't have that knowledge. I could say I could say incidents and schools, or maybe just stuff in California. I could probably do that and it'll figure that out, but it doesn't, like each where clause is independent and the AI can't query it and it has no access to the data. So it wouldn't know how to do that, but it can manage to filter them both if they both have fields that indicate that. So you're totally spot on about like if it had a county field, it would totally work. But it doesn't, like the AI doesn't know what the data is. It can't see the data. That's the main limitation we put on it here. We didn't give the AI the ability to see any of the data. Is there a reason to trigger a function like a buffer or execution in notebooks, either for functionality or as cost savings? So Claude is really good at executing code. So that totally is a really great way to get Claude to do things. And again, since in this case, Claude isn't looking at the data, it's just applying a where clause. It's just applying the filter based on the schema. It like the token cost doesn't make any difference how many features are in there. So it's mostly about what kind of operation you want to be able to do. So like we could have given the AI, we could have asked the AI or given the AI the ability to do a spatial filter with an extent or something like that. And Claude could make up extents and, like Latin long, min, max kind of a deal and pass that and filter that way. And that would probably work. Claude's not terrible at making up extents. It knows common things like where is Texas. It's not great at it, but it kind of knows it. But you do start to get to the point where you need a lot more knowledge about the entire environment. And then you quickly run into a lot of problems because the AI is just not sophisticated to do a lot of those operations. It's way more successful with simple operations. So picking something like this is very simple. I can apply a filter by typing a thing in here, get some description about why it works or why it doesn't, and then apply where clauses. Like simple tasks like that, it's very good at. It's very easy to implement these because they're very linear and executable. When it gets more complex, it gets hard quick because you have context problems and tool problems and all kinds of things. I see Aviation Institute as colleges. Yeah, I mean, it probably has some intuitive knowledge about that, but I don't know if I would trust it. Schools where I can learn to fly. I don't know. We'll see. It probably has some knowledge, but my guess is it's going to miss some. Like there would be some because we don't have like a description of the school. If we had that, it maybe if it could filter it by that. So like I think what it's going to do is it's going to yeah. So see, it's filtering by names. Yeah. If the school has aviation or aeronautics in it, yeah. I mean, that's not bad. That's not bad. Unrelated to the app demo, will I be at Dev Summit? Yes, I will be at Dev Summit. I'm doing a presentation similar to this on Wednesday afternoon. Except I'm gonna just let Claude do all of it. So we're gonna give Claude a very basic prompt. We're gonna let Claude build the whole app and test it using Claude Chrome tools in 20 minutes instead of an hour. So that's scary. But yeah, I'm going to stand there and make commentary about the AI while it does things completely on its own. So that's going to be fun. Okay, so we got just a couple of minutes. There were turn off my screen share. There were like a couple of other questions I was going to try to answer. Let me see. Okay, so we talked about doing something like Experience Builder that is a black box or has limited documentation. The trick is cooking up documentation for it or giving it samples. How are Uber and Lyft using maps for navigation? Are they starting to use AI? My guess is that the answer to that is yes, although I don't know what they're using it for. But there are lots of fun ways to use AI in GIS. More on that soon. Spoiler. Love to hear thoughts on whoops, skipped a whole section there. Oh, Jeff told us to sign up. Huh. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Love these sessions. Thank you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how AI can help assess ADA, WCAG compliance in web apps. I have a whole webinar on that next week. So the answer is yes, it can totally help you. I actually built a tool to make this better because it's actually quite challenging to use AI to generate a map description because there's a lot of things. You can't just drop a picture in it and get a good description of the thing out. So I actually built a tool just for this, but it is super helpful. The trick is then you have to take this and you have to do something with it. So you have to get it into Experience Builder. You have to get it into the alt text fields. You have to get it into, if you're doing it in a custom app, you have to get it into the ARIA description field, which is not, which is super doable. Oh, the doc pages, I haven't deployed it yet. I have some doc on this coming today or tomorrow about this. So, oh, and you're not seeing my screen. I'm over here talking about this screen. Okay. That's embarrassing. That's the screen that I was trying to share to you. So anyway, I'm going to talk more about that in a webinar next week. It's not actually very hard to use the text. And AI generates pretty good text. I highly suggest that you read it, but it definitely takes it from like hours of work to minutes of work when you have something to start with. So it's actually super useful. Yeah. Okay, well, we're at time, so that was fun. I still am a little bit of shock that all of that worked as well as it did. Oh, Claude came back. Which native layer selection approach do you want? I don't know the answer to this question. I guess I want the layer view selector, sure. Um, so anyway, thank you everyone for coming. If you're still hanging out, there will be a recording of this one, I think. And I will, and my newsletter this week will be about this, be as kind of a summary of this, and it will have links to the files in it. So you can start with my files if you want to. So that should get you started if you want to try to do some of this. So thank you everyone for coming. This was super fun. Third Thursday of every month. So there'll be another one of these in March. And if you're coming to Dev Summit, I will see you at Dev Summit. Otherwise, I will see all of you in a month, hopefully. So thank you.